The trial chambers are the center of Minecraft's next big update, and they just got 2 new rooms. One is hard to beat, and one is even harder because it has a devious trap laid out for you. Can you survive it, and how do you find it? Let's answer both of those questions, as well as if there are more rooms coming, and what the heck an entrance room is, because hello, I'm ABX Toycat, and welcome back to Seed Sunday. Today we're focusing on the new trial chamber rooms, and the trial chamber is interesting because there are 2 categories of structure. There are the ones that are fixed that just have different variants. They're the same every time you find them, even though there are different versions of it. And then there are the ones that have different rooms. These can have a lot more variability, and it's what the Woodland Mansion and the Ancient City fits into, but also the Trial Chamber. And so even though they've added these new rooms, everything you've expected so far will still exist. So that means there is a guaranteed entrance room and main hall, and then there is the connecting narrow hallways, small stairs, large stairs, and T-junction rooms. And then we had 5 chambers. They were the spider room, the open room, the breeze room, the hanging room, and the vertical room, but we've got 2 new chambers for this category, the first of which is harder than any trial chamber we have so far, and the second of which is harder yet than that one. So we'll start with the first of the new chambers. This is what I'll call the Maze room, although Mojang have their own name, and this one is really amazing when it comes to what rewards you can get from it, because as you can see, looking around, there are actually several different vaults immediately as you walk in. I believe the most vaults we've seen in a room so far is 4, and this one has 8 separate vaults. The clever thing about it, by the way, is the fact that it seems simple enough. You can't really do mazes in Minecraft, but yet it still manages to trick you in a couple of places, and although you get a vault at the end there, you also will trap yourself in a dead end where mobs will fall in through the skylight, because as well as having 8 vaults, this also has 5 separate spawners, and it's a really interesting mix. So yeah, the second floor can be accessed via this little parkour, which seems really easy when there's no mobs chasing you, but let me tell you, when there's several slime spawners going, it's a little harder. But then there are 4 separate tertiary spawners, as well as a breeze spawner. So the breezes are obviously very necessary and fun to have, but add a big challenge. But at the same time as that, you get 4 separate spawners. One is over here, one was just over there behind me, and then there are 2 next to each other over here, which leads to 4 separate sets of slime spawning at the same time as a breeze in the case of this trial chamber, and that is a lot to go through. This is one of the first rooms we've seen which is basically trial key negative. You come in here with trial keys, you don't earn your trial keys here, because there are 8 separate reward points. There are the 5 I showed you downstairs, and then there is also one over here. That is definitely a vault. Then there is one over here, and then there is one in the back corner next to these spawners. 8 vaults in one room is really good if they have lots of things we're meant to do with them. What is this all about, by the way? But yeah, 8 vaults in one room is a really good thing. However, it is also terrifying. And so this is the first of the 2 new vaults. I like it the most. I think the biggest pro is the fact that it genuinely feels a tiny bit like a maze. Not in the, oh my god, I'm lost, I'll never find myself out way. But if you're really terrified and just desperately searching for the exit, you feel like you're gonna find it, and then you find a ladder you weren't expecting, but it's not a true ladder, so you're still kind of trapped here, and then you're getting just destroyed by stuff as you're desperately trying to get home. That is what I think this trial chamber does really well, and personally, I quite like that. So the name for this second trial chamber is actually coming from my Minecraft friend Olraf. He liked to call it the trap room, and boy is it devious. And what's clever about it is on the surface, it looks kind of just like the maze room, but with fewer options. So it removes the maze part of the maze room, but boy is it actually quite devious. It brings you 2 vaults immediately and lets you think that it's just a really safe room, a really chill one. By the way, we'll ignore the fact that it says lush caves built into it. That's a thing that can happen to any trial chamber, as I'm sure you've seen already. But the interesting thing about this room is it feels like it's nothing until you go to the second floor. So if you make it past the parkour, again, not too hard by itself, you'll realize that this has the same number of spawners and vaults as the previous room, but they are much more concentrated in the center. Also, as well as being, instead of being a breeze and slimes, it's a breeze and 3 sets of zombie spawners. This one's a husk for some reason. There's a second husk spawner just over there as well to create a lot of enemies very quickly. Because when you're in the range of any one of these spawners, you'll be in the range of all 4, meaning you'll have a breeze and 3 zombies to fight at the same time. And this is probably fine if you're prepared and you've got the good gear for it. However, you might walk into this thing and think it's a cakewalk, which would be fine. If you went underneath, you would entirely just think like, wow, this room sure is safe. And here is the devious thing about it. They have hidden quite a few of the vaults down these hallways, which are one-way exits. So you go in there, you open your vault with your keys, and then you turn around and oh god, the zombies have come after you. That is so sneaky, and the whole chamber is basically set up around this premise. premise. It's going to have a lot more vaults than spawners, so you've got room to get the rare things you want from the vaults without having to find a second one. I think that's valuable by itself, but they've done it in such a way that requires a little bit of sneakiness to be avoided. I think this is really, really clever personally, but I also think that it's something you need to be on the lookout for. It is the most terrifying room because it's the most zombies you have to fight in your life, and you have to be doing that while dealing with verticality. They'll spawn and immediately be able to walk off, and also while dealing with the very messy and honestly, in some parts, quite confusing room. And also, as you can see right here, you sometimes will climb down to a place thinking you're safe and you've escaped the zombies, and oh no, it's a dead end. Again, it's like the maze, but this time not just designed as a maze, designed literally to trap you in corners. Very, very smart. Speaking of smart, I think it'd be pretty smart to share both of the seeds for these with you today. The first of these rooms is actually fairly common. I found it in quite a few trial chambers, but this second room is fairly rare, so I figured you might need a seed specifically for it, and so this is the one I'll be focusing on. Oh god, there is a bog right there, and it's a really, really good room because despite being an already very rare structure, you can actually find it quite easily. Here's how you do so. You spawn in the main room, and then you find out that it's a lush cave filled with lots of stuff, and then you've just got to go up a ladder, and very, very close to your entrance room, one of the very first staircases to the left here, you'll find that just going up some stairs that you assume is going to have nothing at the end, actually has something, and it is the trap room. Even better than the fact that it has the trap room and therefore it's 8 volts this close to the entrance of a trial chamber is also the fact that this is mixed in with a lush cave. I don't know why this is such a common thing in Minecraft, but I really do kind of like the charm of it taking on the lush cave biome. But the other great thing about it is it provides a source of light and food around the place. Have you been destroyed by poison skeletons? Good news, you can actually fix that using the very vaults themselves. I feel like one of the problems with trial chambers that isn't necessarily one they're going to be fixing or even that needs to be fixed, but one of the problems I've noticed is that getting food is actually kind of hard. You will go food negative most of the time unless you fight these things perfectly or get perfect luck, and so as a perfect counterbalance to that, having some food that just grows from the walls is really, really great in my opinion. By the way, you can see what I'm talking about here as far as like, yeah, you will get more zombies in here than you know what to do with, and so you better watch out. Speaking of better watching out, something else I wanted to find out was a question related to a recent speedrun that I attempted, honestly, kind of poorly, and that I wanted to try again better, and it was, what is the best seed if you want to get into a trial chamber as fast as possible? Also, this is so weird. This whole trial chamber is breaking the rules of meant to having just like one type of melee spawner. There's husk spawners, and there's zombie spawners, but the husk spawners just aren't working. Look at that. He's just standing still in there. Anyway, so this is something I wanted to know the answer to, and so here's what I did. I went to chunkbase.com, a website where you can analyze a seed and where structures are going to be on it, and I manually typed in as many numbers after the word IBX trial as I did need to until I found 10 separate seeds that would have a trial chamber at spawn or within 64 blocks of it. That eventually gave me this list of 10 seeds, which you could just take by itself and say, here are 10 seeds where you can find a trial chamber below spawn. However, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to load up each of these seeds one by one and rate them by 3 separate metrics. The ease of access to the structure, i.e. is there a cave below spawn? Do you spawn on top of a mountain? How many blocks do you have to break between you and the trial chamber? That is going to be question number 1. Question number 2 is going to be, what is the quality of the structure? Quality is a very subjective measure, but I think ultimately the number of rooms and therefore vaults you get is a very good way to describe this. And the third one is the challenge of the mobs. If you're coming here very close to spawn, then having bogs, especially lots of bogs next to breezes, is going to be bad, while having silverfish is going to be good. They are the easiest mob to kill, and it almost feels like a joke that you get a trial key for killing them. But yeah, there is a really good case of, say, a stronghold like this one, a trial chamber like this one, rather I should say, that has not just one of those rooms with more than 8 volts, but 2 of them. I just said how many trial chambers I had to go through to find these, and now I find 2 in the same trial chamber. You would have access to so many vaults and therefore so many opportunities for the new trims and, more importantly, the heavy mace, etc. From places like this, and so that gives this a very, very good thumbs up from my opinion. Wait, is this a third one? No way. Okay, no, it's not. It's just another trial chamber. But yeah, these are the 3 metrics I'll be judging these by. And so let's take this first seed and review it now. First things first, there is this cave right here, which you can use without mining any blocks whatsoever to get yourself very, very close to the trial chambers. It's a little bit of an awkward run, but it's better to do an awkward run than have to mine a bunch of blocks. Wait, and then you can go down here, and then once you're down into this area, you are then, immediately at it. Oh, have I found the best one already by accident? So this would be ease of access, a solid 8. I think the only thing better is if the cave was slightly less windy, but there are no blocks that need to be mined, or rather 3 blocks have to be mined for your fist, and you're into a trial chamber. Then as far as quality of the structure goes, you get lots and lots of trials, but most importantly, lots and lots of vaults in this thing. I think this is definitely a 9 out of 10. Having over a 20 separate vaults, it's just incredible, if I have to say so. The way this could have been improved is obviously the fact that it could have even more rooms with even more vaults, but for now this is a decent baseline. However, as far as quality of the mobs go, having to face bogged is going to be a serious detriment if you want to come in here very quickly, or really any time at all. Like, being poisoned sucks for everyone. It is a very, very negative thing, and so we'll give this seed a score of 8, and then 9, and then 5, and now let's check out the next one, and once I'm ready, I'll let you know how that one goes, and we'll go through the entire list this way. So IBX Trial 146 spawns you in an incredible area on the surface. I mean, you get an ice spikes biome and a cherry grove and this lovely kind of like icy slopes right here. However, it does spawn you offset to the structure with no real way to close that gap. So I'm saying ease of access is going to be a 4 for this one. The quality of the structure is a solid 6, I would say. You've got a decent variety of structures, and you've even got one room which has a decent number of vaults all the way over here. So I think that's pretty good. You've got a couple of cool hallways, and so, I guess, honestly, a couple of cool ways around this structure, and as a result, I would have to say that this is actually pretty nice in that way. However, I would have to say that it's like the least ideal non-bogged setup. You get strays, which, they're not bogged, so they have that going for them, and you get husks, which are just both slightly more annoying variants of what you could get. However, I think an important part of my ranking is that you can't score above a 5 while you've got bogs, because the poison skeletons are too much, and I don't think you can score below a 5 if you don't have bogs, and so I'm going to give this a solid 6 for quality of mobs. It's better than having poison skeletons shooting you, but it's the least best you could be while not having poison skeletons shooting you, and so that's what I would say about this. IBX Trial 200 is really interesting because you spawn on some grass, which if you dig down from, you'll end up in a big underwater cave, but there is some oxygen here to keep you alive, and if you just know exactly where you're going through one of these holes, then you can get to the trial chamber with about 10 blocks having to be mined, and also a little bit of efficiency. Even better is the fact that you're in a very big cave with great access to iron, and I'm sure diamonds if you looked any further. That is kind of nice way to get some extra ingredients before going in. I don't like that you come into this big vertical room, but I do like that even though this is a tiny trial chamber with not great variety in terms of vaults and the chambers themselves, you can see that you've got a couple of duplicated rooms, which isn't like ideal, I wouldn't say. You got the breeze room twice in a row here. However, keep in mind the way a trial chambers works is you get 4 different mobs that spawn there. You always get a breeze because it's the only way you can find them, but then you've got 3 other categories: ranged, melee, and small melee, and off those categories, the skeleton is the best ranged because it doesn't shoot poison or slowness arrows, so it's the best in its slot, if you will, and I would say the silverfish is the best in its slot too for small melee because cave spiders, they're terrible. I would also say, in the exact same way, that no one wants to fight regular spiders, no one wants to fight baby zombies, so silverfish is the best in the slot for this too, and so the only thing that I would say leaves anything to be desired is the fact that the third type of spawner, the melee spawner, is slime, where I think some people might prefer that it be zombies. So just to confirm that, over here, this is a slime spawner. I don't like slimes. I would prefer to just fight zombies, and that's my personal best. So this is a 9 out of 10 for quality of mobs, but it's a 3 out of 10 for quality of structure, and an 8 out of 10 to get in. If you want to get in and do an easy trial chamber, this is the one. Just don't expect to find a lot while you're in here. That is what I would say. IBX Trial 250 is really nice because you spawn in a sparse jungle biome that's not just dogs and wood, but that's also really access to food if you can find some melons, but also some bamboo. I love the combination of stuff up here. However, when it comes to getting down to your trial chambers, there's not really a lot to help you. You could find this cave right here, which is just below the surface, and you could sort of follow it if you really wanted to, and so it's kind of handy for that, but it won't get you all of the way without some blocks mined. It will just get you into this spiky biome. Everyone loves the dripstone caves, which isn't exactly where you need to be. So you're going to need to go out that cave at some point, which is fine enough, I guess. As for the structure itself, it is a little bit on the small side. I would say it is a perfectly fine trial chambers, but it's just that. It's fine. And as we can see, it's got that below 5 rating because we've got bogs. Everyone hates a poison skeleton when you're trying to get through something, and so bogs are not my favorite, but silverfish kind of are. So yeah, we'll give this a 4 out of 10 because it's not the best combination. In fact, it's close to the worst, but the silverfish redeem it by making you have at least a easy fight. And so as a result, we'll say that getting in is like a 5. There is a cave, but that's kind of it. As far as the quality of the structure, that's also a 5. And as far as quality of the mobs, I'll give it a 3, I think, because it could be worse, but not by much. Finally, there is one thing about this seed that is worthwhile. I don't think it's going to score the best in any category, but there is something that you might enjoy about it, and it's the fact that you can find the trial chambers in this giant dripstone cave. Look how beautiful this is, first of all, but second of all, it is one that you will rarely find, and it's really, really cool because this cave eventually, if you follow it through, will lead you into a giant lush cave. So if you want to experience the cave systems in this update, this is the update for you, and follow this far enough, and you eventually experience a regular cave, 3 cave biomes for the price of 1, plus a trial chamber, plus when you go this way far enough, you eventually hit an abandoned mineshaft that's exposed. I think that's a lot of fun personally, and maybe you do too. This is probably a better one if you're just going to raid the trial chamber, then start a regular world, if you want to explore some stuff along the way, but that's not the question we're answering today. So our next seed is interesting because it spawns you into a mangrove swamp. It's a biome you don't see very often, but you might learn to appreciate, and if you can just head to this little water pit and you're willing to swim down below it and then break a couple of blocks, you'll end up in this cave. This cave will get you right into the trial chamber. You can be in this trial chamber with just a couple of blocks broken next to spawn, which means ease of access is a 9, I would have to say. However, the quality of the chamber you'll get for it is more like a 3. It has very few chambers. The only thing that really saves it is the fact that one of the rooms is this one, so lots of vaults, so maybe a 4, 9 in terms of ease of access, but it's a 4 chamber. However, if we then look inside these spawners, you'll see that you get the breeze, everyone knows that. The melee is zombie, which I personally like. The small melee is silverfish. Are we on track for a 10 out of 10? The very best set of spawners you can get? Well, sadly, it is all ruined in the very end, because instead of skeletons, we get strays. Strays aren't that big of a downgrade though, so I'm giving this a 9 out of 10. 9 for 9. Pretty decent, honestly. Our next seed is a plains biome, although you've got a village and a jungle nearby, so it's a pretty decent spawn by itself. However, if we are to go underground, which you better believe I want to do, you can see that, yeah, I mean, there's sort of a cave going diagonally here, and there's a big bowl over here. You know, there's probably a way you could route these caves together. It's not a 0 out of 10 for ease of access, but it's also not perfect. Eventually, you'll find yourself here, and if you dig in, you'll find the trial chamber. So, yeah, that's like a 5 or a 6 ease of access. You could work out a route through it all, and it is nice that it's exposed, so you could explore this from the outside. However, the quality of the trial chamber is leaving a little bit to be desired right now. It's perfectly okay. There's, you know, it's got like a lot of the different structure rooms, but it doesn't have a large number of vaults, and even worse than not having a large number of vaults, it doesn't have the best combination of mobs. I mean, a zombie, okay, that's fine, I guess. Okay, we got a stray, okay, you know, it's going somewhere, but what about the final part of the mob? Well, let's find out where one of those is. It's interesting because you can tell certain rooms will only have certain types of spawners, and so we're only going to have strays in this room. Having that many strays, by the way, is lethal, but you know what we have? We have spiders. It's not the worst small melee, but it's not the best, and so I would say that this is a... I think 5 is too generous. I think this is a 4 quality structure, and I think it's a 7 quality in terms of mobs. So 5, 4, 7... perfectly average seed. If that's what you want, this is the one for you, but it's not what I want, so it's not the one for me. So for our next seed, which by the way proves that I started adding letters when I was getting frustrated with the lack of good seeds that had a trial chamber below spawn, it seems to be a roughly 1 in 100 or so that will have a trial chamber within 48 to 64 blocks of the spawn. However, here's an interesting one because you spawn into a spruce taiga biome, and usually that means you could get a lot of food, but in this case you get one patch of sweet berries, which is nice, I guess. And then if you go below it, you can see there's not really an easy path to your trial chamber. In fact, this is one of the harder paths you can have. There are caves here to help you, but only then sort of, kind of, and you're going to take some full damage while trying it. So the path inwards is really something like a 4, and the quality of the mobs is, it's the lowest 5 we can have because we've got husks, we've got strays, and then what's our small melee? I mean, these are both non-ideal options. Our small melee is cave spiders, so you're going to get poisoned in here in the second best way possible, or maybe you know, I guess the best way possible, really. The second worst way, and therefore the best way. However, in exchange for these minor annoyances of this 4 and this 5, you get a high quality structure. Look at this. So you get one of these rooms. This is the Mega Vault room with 4 things in the center. Then you get one of these rooms. This is the kind of maze room, which also has 8 vaults. So that would be nuts by itself. But then, what is this over here? A third one of those rooms, so another 8 or so vaults. And then we've got a big vertical staircase, so that's another 4 vaults right there. And then we've got another vertical room. I don't really like these, but they do give you vaults. And then we've got another trial chamber over here. You saw the cave spiders. And then we've got this whole hallway over here, although the way this hallway is built is so bizarre. Yeah, there's just a dead-end room in this hallway. I've never seen something like this before. Okay, this is absolutely unique. Yeah, this is such a bizarre arrangement for a room. This is unique, and this is perhaps the biggest trial chamber in terms of vaults I think we'll find. This is a 10. If we later have to give something an 11, then sure. But this is the best one I've seen since the update came out. Wow. So, yeah, it's a 5 quality of mobs, 4 quality of access, but 10 quality of structure right here. Okay, this is the weirdest thing that has ever happened. I thought that I went through the seeds in the wrong order. I was sure that I accidentally had loaded up seed 353 instead of 33Q, because when I loaded up seed IBX Trial 353, it looked exactly the same, down to this single berry bush I made fun of, and the structure is also exactly the same. And so after loading up both seeds a couple more times and assuming I made another mistake, you know what I found out? For IBX Trial 33Q and IBX Trial 353 are exactly the same seed. They are identical. There is no difference between them. You can try this for yourself if you like. These are 2 very different seed fields that you can type in, but they will both lead you to the same seed. And if you're curious as to what's happening here, Minecraft doesn't actually use your text as a seed. It converts your text into a field of binary, which can be represented as a number that looks something like this. And for whatever reason, whether this is a coincidence or a quirk of the way hexadecimal works, the seed IBX Trial 353 is the same number as the seed IBX Trial 33Q. So you get to pick which one of these 2 you use. But for now, they're both the same, and now we only have 9 seeds. IBX Trial 458 spawns you in a plains biome. It's beautiful. Look at these flowers and that ruin portal and the village and the outpost there. But what makes this beautiful to me is the fact that there's a trial ruins directly below your feet, and you can get yourself into it by jumping into this ravine, because directly accessible from here, if you can just find the right spot, is the trial chamber. So this trial chamber is really interesting because it is fairly small. You don't have any big rooms with a lot of loot. You do have a decent number of rooms overall. Like, it's a fine number, but it's exactly a fine trial chamber. I would say the access way in here is a 7 or an 8. It would be better if there were easier ways to come through this place without dying, but a 7 or 8 to get in, and then I would say a structure that is a perfectly fine 5. But here's the interesting thing. I was looking around to see the quality of the mobs, and I found quite easily, okay, here is a zombie, right? And then I found, okay, here is a skeleton, and obviously there are breezes, but I couldn't find any small melee mobs. There is just zombies and skeletons throughout the entire trial chamber. I did really pan through the entire thing, just thinking that I would surely find one eventually, but yeah, only zombies and skeletons, no small melee. I don't think that that makes it a 10 or anything, but it's definitely an 8 and then like an asterisk for being extra interesting. So yeah, this is a seed worth considering. It's pretty nice, but it's not the best. Finally, we've got the last seed, which could be the best of the entire batch. You spawn in a savanna biome, which is beautiful, and let me tell you that, okay, I'll be honest, it's actually quite disappointing. There is a series of caves down below you, which is useful if you're randomly mining, but if you're trying to find a particular path down there, I'm not sure it's going to be handy. So the speedrunning aspect is gone, but every average player will probably find a cave that will lead into this, so I think that makes it at least a 6. But then as far as the actual mobs themselves go, let me just say that it's not that it's a bad balance. They're skeletons, which is nice, but skeletons are all over this place. You'll be fighting skeletons by the dozen, which is okay because of all the great loot that you'll find, except no, quality of the structure is absolutely down the toilet. This is a tiny trial chambers, and it somehow manages to be all the worst ones at the same time. This is a 1. This is a quality 1 trial chamber, and because as far as I can tell, it's just skeletons everywhere. It's like quality 2 for mobs. If you like fighting skeletons, then I guess I have to give it a 5. There's no bogs. 5 for mobs, very reluctantly. 5 for getting in, and 1 for quality of the trial chamber. This is the seed for you if you like trial chambers, but you want to be done with them very quickly, and also you have a smite sword when you spawn into Minecraft. That's the only justification, I think. But now, this brings us rather nicely, I think, into the final section of this video, because I now have 10 separate sets of rankings. Which of these is the best seed? Well, I'm looking through the list, and you can see that only one of these scored a 10 for quality of structure, but it got a 4 and a 5 elsewhere. So, depending on what you value most, you could look through this list, and you could say, if you want easy mobs to kill, then seed either 6 or seed 2 would be the very best ones for you. If you wanted to have the best structure, then seed 8 is obviously the very best, and if you wanted the easiest access, then, funnily enough, that would be seed 6 as well. So now we have 2 very best seeds. My intention at this point was to round up and say, to my personal tastes, I think that seed 8 is the best, because I think quality of structure is worth a little bit of harder time, especially if there's going to be rare loot that you're specifically looking for that is hard to get. But there is something amazing about the trial chamber on this seed, and let me show you what it is, because this is one that is accessible from the outside world with a cave, and I'm going to walk down that cave for just a minute while I talk about the overall conclusion, as well as, the future of the trial chamber. So first things first, I really like the new rooms. I think they add a lot to the trials, and also they give us for the first time rooms which have more vaults than active trial spawners. So you have rooms that you'll go into to get keys, and then you have rooms to go into to spend them, which I think is a good balance. But do you see the amazing thing about this seed now? Look at this. This is another room in the same trial chamber, surely. I mean, sure I had to walk down a cave, but it must be a giant trial chamber. Nope. This is an entirely brand new second trial chamber. You know the point I made that I gave it a 10, but I might have to give it an 11? This seed actually gets the 11 because you have a whole second trial chamber that is a very short walk across a cave. I did it while just talking about those structures, and that is incredible. There is one last thing that I want to talk about while we're on the subject of trial chambers, and it is the fact that this is obviously the best seed to try, but it does still, no matter how good a trial chamber you have, there is still the question of how you're meant to get in and out. In the case of this cave, you can see it's only a few blocks to mine to get into a cave or out of one, but the interesting thing that I want to point out is that all of these trial chambers have one room in common. Like I mentioned very earlier, every trial chamber has the main hallway, and every trial chamber has an entrance room. You might have to look for it sometimes, but it's always going to be there. It's got the tree in it, which is really lovely, but this entrance room still has a weird void on the other side, and so they haven't worked out what it's going to be an entrance to. Is it an entrance to the structure from the outside world, or is it a entrance to something bigger that they're planning towards? Personally, with all of the talk of making the Mace hard, like harder to get and something which is going to be more challenging, I think this is going to be the entrance to some mini boss room where there's going to be something you have to do to fight something to get a Mace in reward. I think that would be a really fun, cool fit to Minecraft, and that way you could get 1 Mace per trial chamber, as opposed to the current system where in theory you could get 10 Maces, but in practice you often get 0. However, yeah, this is something I'm gonna have to be doing a lot of. I'm definitely gonna be keeping a close eye on. We'll have to follow the snapshots and previews. For now, I found in the probably last iteration of most of the chambers, the best trial chamber combo you can find. It is incredible, and you better believe that probably by the time you're watching this video, I'll be speedrunning it because, yeah, it is an absolute insane seed on so many levels. The fact that without leaving your cave, you can go through 2 entire trial chambers is something that really interests me, and so tonight I'll be trying to stream non-stop until I get a Mace under the current system. When I tried it in creative, it took 136 volts, so I might be streaming for a while. I am very prepared to be streaming all the way into tomorrow morning, but I look forward to seeing you for that one. For now, keep in mind, I think I found the best, at least manual by hand seed that we can find for Minecraft Bedrock, and I hope that you've enjoyed this video. The seeds will be slightly, the seed should actually work, by the way, on Java and on Bedrock. There will be some differences if you try this on the Java edition. Just keep that in mind, and also keep in mind that I've been AVXToyCat. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all tomorrow for what might be a slightly different Let's Play. That rhymed, it was nice. Okay, thank you for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.